What if Wednesday's episode is not building toward just one disaster, but three? On April 22, the bold and the beautiful may bring a fierce demand for revenge, a chilling mystery call, and a growing fear that could change everything for one couple. And that is what makes this episode so dangerous. The tension is coming from every direction. The biggest immediate explosion may come from Elektra. Her demand that Steffi and Ridge throw Ivy out of the house is not just emotional. It is strategic. It is Elektra making it clear that forgiveness is no longer on the table. She is not asking for space. She is asking for action. And that changes the tone completely. Up to this point, Ivy's scheming has lived in that familiar soap space where manipulation can sometimes be softened by excuses, misunderstandings, or delayed fallout. But if Elektra pushes this into a formal family and business response, then Ivy may no longer be dealing with hurt feelings alone. She may be facing real consequences that affect where she lives, where she works, and whether anyone at Forrester still trusts her. That is where the story becomes especially interesting. Because if Ridge and Steffi support Elektra, then Ivy's position could collapse fast. Not just socially, but professionally. And in this world, losing your standing at Forrester Creations is never just about a job. It means losing influence, losing protection, losing the room where decisions are made. The real question is whether Steffi and Ridge will go all in. Steffi is not someone who tolerates chaos inside the family for very long, especially when she believes someone has crossed a line. If she sees Ivy as a threat to peace, loyalty, or the company's stability, she may not hesitate. Ridge, however, could be the more complicated factor. He may agree Ivy deserves consequences, but the severity of Elektra's demand could force him to decide whether punishment should be emotional or permanent. Because once Ivy realizes she is cornered, she may stop trying to defend herself and start blaming everyone else. That is usually when a character becomes even more unpredictable. A desperate Ivy is far more dangerous than a comfortable one. If she feels exiled, humiliated, and cut off, she may decide she has nothing left to lose. So yes, Elektra may be seeking justice here. But in soap terms, justice often comes with blowback. And if Ivy is truly pushed out, Wednesday may not be the end of her drama. It may be the beginning of her revenge era. If Elektra's story delivers the loudest confrontation, Dylan's may deliver the creepiest mystery. That phone call already feels unsettling enough. A disguised voice. A reference to unfinished business. A possible meeting location. It is the kind of setup designed to make both Dylan and the audience instantly uneasy. But what makes this storyline more intriguing is that it may not be random at all. It may be personal. The strongest possibility is that this is some kind of twisted test, prank, or emotional probe involving Remy. And if that is true, then the voice changer matters for more than suspense. It suggests someone is not just hiding their identity. They are controlling the emotional temperature of the conversation. They want Dylan off balance before the truth comes out. That is not casual behavior. That is the behavior of someone who knows Dylan well enough to predict her reaction. And that brings us to the most fascinating layer of this whole story. The possibility that Remy and Dylan share a hidden connection. If the show is building toward a reveal that they are half-siblings, step-siblings, or even cousins who grew up with a sibling-like bond, then suddenly this strange phone call becomes much more than a scare tactic. It becomes the doorway to Dylan's past. And that matters because Dylan has been written as someone with very little visible family support around her. That kind of isolation always creates room for a reveal like this. In other words, the show may be filling in the emotional blanks. If Remy is connected to Dylan by blood or by a blended family history, then his arrival changes her position in the canvas immediately. She is no longer just a lone figure finding her footing. She becomes part of a hidden history that could tie her to other players in surprising ways. And that history may not be simple. Maybe they used to tease each other constantly. Maybe their bond was real once, but something fractured it. Maybe Dylan remembers Remy as reckless but loyal, while the present version of him is far more unstable. That tension would make their reunion far more compelling than a basic, surprise relative reveal. Because then the real drama becomes emotional contradiction. Can Dylan be angry and relieved at the same time? Can she distrust Remy while still feeling drawn toward him because he represents the only real family link she has nearby? That inner conflict would make her story much richer. And then there is the larger strategic value of this reveal. If Dylan becomes someone Remy can trust, she could become the bridge that helps him reconnect with Deacon Sharp. At the same time, Remy may try to repay that loyalty by helping Dylan in her romantic life, especially if he believes she still has a real shot with Will. That would create a very soapy exchange of favors, family alliance on one side, romantic interference on the other. But even if that happens, the tone should not be mistaken for light drama. Because a reunion built on secrets is rarely stable. If Remy enters Dylan's life through deception, even for emotional reasons, then trust is already damaged before the relationship even begins. And that means Wednesday's mystery call may not just introduce a twist. It may introduce a bond that is meaningful, useful, and deeply unstable. While the other storylines bring confrontation and mystery, Daphne's may bring something more intimate, and possibly more heartbreaking. Her growing sense that something may be wrong feels especially important because it is still so early. On the surface, that should be comforting. Carter can reassure her. He can remind her that these things take time. He can keep the conversation hopeful. But that does not necessarily erase what Daphne is feeling. And in soap storytelling, instinct often arrives before diagnosis. That is why this plot stands out. It is not loud yet. There is no dramatic medical scene. No confirmed verdict. No collapse. Just that creeping emotional shift where a woman starts to feel that hope may be slipping out of her control. That is powerful because it is so human. Daphne may try to stay calm. She may tell herself not to overreact. She may even smile through the uncertainty for Carter's sake. But if her intuition keeps getting stronger, then every reassurance could start to feel thinner and thinner. At some point, she may need answers more than comfort. And if she does go to a doctor, this story could change very quickly. Because once a character moves from fear to testing, the mood changes. It becomes real, it becomes measurable, it becomes something that can either bring relief, or deliver devastating news that cannot be talked away. What makes this particularly emotional is Carter's role in it. He will almost certainly want to protect Daphne from panic. That is understandable, but sometimes reassurance can unintentionally delay the truth a person is already bracing for. If Daphne senses that Carter is trying to hold the dream together before they have facts, she may begin to feel alone inside a problem that affects both of them. That is where the real pain could begin. Not only in the possibility of infertility, but in how differently two people handle the fear of it. Daphne may need honesty, Carter may want hope, and when those two needs clash, even loving couples can start to drift into silence, frustration, and emotional misunderstanding. So this may not be the most explosive storyline on Wednesday, but it could be the one with the deepest long-term consequences. Because if the show is truly laying the groundwork for a fertility struggle, then this is not just a sad twist. It is the beginning of a test that could reshape Daphne and Carter's future in ways neither of them is prepared for yet. What makes Wednesday, April 22 feel so compelling is that the suspense is coming from three very different directions at once. Elektra is no longer willing to sit back and absorb the damage Ivy has caused. Dylan may be standing at the edge of a personal reveal that could completely shift how we see her place in this story. And Daphne's fear is quieter, but in some ways even more unsettling, because it carries the possibility of heartbreak that has not fully arrived yet. That is why this episode feels stronger than a simple spoiler day. It is not just setting up conflict. It is layering emotional pressure, hidden truth, and possible loss all in the same hour. And when the bold and the beautiful starts moving in that way, it usually means the real fallout is only beginning. So now the big questions become impossible to ignore. Will Ivy actually lose everything? Is Remy truly tied to Dylan in a way no one saw coming? And is Daphne about to face news that could alter her future with Carter? Let me know what theory you believe most in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more the bold and the beautiful spoilers and analysis.